approaching Bandon heading west. Now, Rentokil, Ireland's leading pest control provider, is warning the public of a significant increase in the presence of moths in Irish homes and businesses over the past 3 years. Joining me with words of advice, Richard Faulkner, who is the technical field consultant for Rentokil. Good morning to you, Richard.
Hi, good morning.
And you're welcome. Do you know why we are seeing an increase in moth infestations?
A lot of the time, any sort of increase in any sort of animal infestation is going to be environmentally linked. The fact that our weather's been so much more milder is having huge implications with a lot of different animals, a lot of different insects. And again, these moths that we're talking about are textile moths, and they feed on a natural fibre called keratin. So it's these moths that we're looking at.
And where in the house are we most likely to find them?
So it's anywhere where you've got natural fibre. So keratin is in a lot of different things. It's in hair, it's in fur, it's in wool, it's in horn, hooves, but not antlers, funnily enough. And you also have keratin in fingernails and stuff like that. But it's generally anywhere you've got natural textiles, so be it jumpers, clothes, or even your carpets, tapestries, and that sort of thing that could be in the house. And
the damage they can do?
It's generally, again, the larvae, the sort of caterpillar phase of them that does the damage because it's the feeding phase, and they will do significant damage to fabrics that ruin your carpets, that ruin your clothes, that put the holes in it. And it's because they need this fibre keratin in order to grow. But generally you're going to find them in sort of undisturbed areas as well. So with carpets, you're generally going to find them under your settees and sofas, under your units you have, maybe under your TV stand. If you've got dressers or anything like that on top of your carpets, under those areas because they're stable and they're undisturbed.
And do we have many different species of moths?
Yeah, the main two that we have, which are textile damaging moth, would be the case-bearing clothes moth and the common clothes moth.
And they're the ones that are going to do the damage. And I take and people don't discover it until they go to pull a jumper out of a cupboard and there's holes in it, is it?
It can be, yeah, it can be that thing, and that's the thing. It's making sure that everything's fully cleaned and stored in sort of airtight bags before we put them away to storage. And a lot of the time we like to store stuff in our attics. And the thing is, because keratin's found in natural fibres, it's found in feathers. Sometimes you might have birds nesting in your eaves. So attics aren't always the best place to store stuff either.
Unless it's in some kind of a sealed container or a sealed bag, yeah.
Exactly.
And you have top spring cleaning tips to try to help with moth infestations. What do you say? Is it just keep our houses clean?
Yeah, it can be. Again, because we're always very good at cleaning what we can see, but it's the areas we can't see.
Yeah.
So it's swinging your sofa back and making sure it gets a good hoovering under that. Because the more we disturb an environment, the less attractive it is to a pest, because they, like us, they want a nice, stable environment. So if it's not stable, they're less likely to be there. But yeah, it's cleaning areas, the hard-to-reach areas, making sure if we do store our clothes and our textiles that we do it in sealed bags and suitcases, making sure that the clothes aren't soiled or dirty before they get stored away. Especially, I know in our attic we've got loads and loads of kids' clothes, and with those they need a good high wash before they get put away.
Are moths more attracted to dirty clothes than clean clothes?
Yeah, they do like soiled clothing, especially if it's got a little bit of moisture in it. Again, if something's slightly soiled or damp, it gets in. You're raising the humidity in it, and they do like a bit of humidity and moisture. Especially the common clothes moth, it does like stuff that's a little bit soiled.
And when you say that you've seen an increase in calls, why? At what point would somebody call Rentokil to come out for moths? Would the infestation be really bad?
Usually, as you said, it's when they all suddenly see it, or they pull out clothing and it's damaged, or they might be that they're doing a bit of spring cleaning or moving furniture about and they find the damage, or they actually start to see the insects themselves. And then the sort of red light goes on and they call us.
Oh, and what can you do when you do get there?
Again, we'll have to identify the pest and make sure we know which species it is, and then there's a number of different sort of treatments we can do, from anything from using heat treatment and steam to using chemical treatment.
Okay, a couple of our listeners saying, Michael saying, Patricia, hi, moths have a field day on woolen jumpers. He sounds like somebody who's speaking from experience. And Audrey said, I have discovered moths, they do like wool jumpers. Mothballs are very hard to get. Can your experts suggest anything else that we could use? Now, I did have somebody earlier, when I mentioned you were coming on, saying they bought mothballs, they think they bought them in a chemist. But others are saying they're just hard to get. And what's your view on mothballs, and do they stink?
Yeah, well, the thing, like, obviously I'm not that young anymore, I'm in my 40s, and I remember when I was little, we always used to go to Cornwall to my nan's, and my nan's, when you're little, you hide in cupboards, don't you, playing hide and seek with your siblings, and my nan's always used to reek of mothballs. It's just one of those things that takes me back to my childhood. But yeah, a lot of them used a product called Vapona.
Yeah.
And again, as we progress in time, things just stop being used, and a risk assessment say, oh no, it's unsafe to use now. So that was the problem with mothballs. They sort of, depending on what the active ingredient is with them, it'll be stuff that's just no longer in use. So it's just sort of a dying thing. And again, because we have so many synthetics and we're much more of a throwaway culture now, they don't seem to be a thing. But the best thing really that you can do is just thoroughly hoover, thoroughly clean, especially closets and wardrobes. Sometimes it's good to give them a good clean out and a hoover around as well, just because you get lint and debris build up in them, which can be a starting point for an infestation.
Okay, and a listener, Colette in Drummahan says, could you ask your expert from Rentokil, who's Richard Faulkner, by the way, could he discuss cluster flies, please?
Yeah, cluster flies, again, this time of year, they're usually, again, that going to start to move out of buildings now we've got nice weather. So cluster flies, the most common species we deal with is called Pollenia rudis, the common cluster fly. And these are the guys in the summer you'll see on the south-facing parts of your buildings and on your picket fences and stuff, taking in the sunshine. They actually lay their eggs in soil, and their larvae predate earthworms. So they're not really a public health pest. And then when we get cold snap and the weather starts to turn, usually around September, they start to migrate into buildings. They get in under roof tiles and around Velux windows, and they literally cluster together to overwinter. And then what usually happens is at this sort of time we start using our lights a lot more and turning our heating down, and they start to come down through light fittings and out the gaps around the windows. And that's because they think it's suddenly summer in your house. So it's again, usually anybody who's in a rural area, you're going to be more prone to them, and anybody who's got a green or parkland or anything like that around them, because they need the soil. So again, if you've got a reasonably large garden, it can help as well. But that's why they're there. So it's just making sure that all your gaps are well sealed, and that sort of thing. But you get them yellow swarming fly and autumn fly are the other sort of two that we really get that do that.
And when you're thinking of Rentokil, what's the most common call out? Is it mice and rats and things?
Yeah, our core business has always been rats and mice, but it used to be quite seasonal. So once you got into sort of mid to late spring, into the summer, it's all going to be insects. But because we're noticing that our climate's changing quite a lot, and we used to say, oh yeah, and then it's sort of September till March is going to be your main rodent season. But it's all sort of changing, and everything's sort of almost 12 months a year now. But yeah, predominantly it would be rats and mice. And then insect-wise, it's going to be flies. This moths, fleas have actually been on the increase so far this year as well. We've noticed a lot more activity for them both here and in the UK. And then sort of other stuff like wasps last year were really, really bad, and it's probably going to have a similar year this year with them as well. So everything seems to be on the up because of the change in the weather.
And that's to do with climate change, isn't it?
Yeah. Because who would have thought, when you look at this time last year, we were sort of a minimum of 6 inches deep in snow everywhere.
And look, and we've just come out of our mildest February in 60 years.
Exactly.
Actually, it's interesting.
17 degrees is mad,
it's interesting with the wasps, because regularly throughout the summer months we'll get calls into, we do a weekly gardening slot, and we'll get calls in about people not sure if it's a wasp's nest or if it's a beehive. And our gardening expert always says, call the experts in. You do not attempt to get rid of a wasp's nest yourself.
No, and it's the same as if I get a leak at home, I'll turn the water off. I'm not going to try and fix my plumbing because somebody would do it properly, and I'll just make it worse. But you have to be careful with these things. And the thing is as well with wasps, for the first part of the year, they're very beneficial because they're getting rid of your garden pests. They're protein feeders. It's just later on in the year, as the hive, the nest breaks down, that they go out looking for sugar and basically get drunk.
Okay, and that's when they become dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, you are a mine of information, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme.
Lovely.
And thanks for joining. Bye. That is
Bye.
Richard Faulkner, who's the technical field consultant for Rentokil. 1850 333 103. Scam calls, Marie